Ryan Cole wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the scanner screen. The readings made no sense. Something massive was floating in the dead zone between star systems, far from any trade route or colonized world. He had been flying his salvage ship, the Wanderer, through this empty sector for 3 weeks without finding anything worth claiming. Now his patience had paid off. The object was huge. His scanner said it was over 3 kilometers wide. That was bigger than any space station humanity had ever built. Ryan leaned closer to the screen, his heart beating faster. If this was an abandoned station, he could claim it under salvage law. Even selling it for scrap metal would make him rich enough to retire. He punched in the coordinates and set course toward the object. The Wanderer was an old ship, bought used 15 years ago when Ryan first started his salvage business. The engines rattled and complained, but they got him where he needed to go. He lived alone on the ship, spending months at a time searching the edges of known space for forgotten technology and abandoned outposts. As he got closer, Ryan could see the structure more clearly through his view screen. It was not like any station he had ever seen. The entire thing was made of some dark material that seemed to drink in the starlight around it. No lights blinked on its surface. No heat signature showed on his scanners. It looked completely dead, like it had been floating here for centuries. Ryan checked his databases, searching for any record of this structure. Nothing came up. The Galactic Registry had no file on it. The human colonial records showed nothing. Even the commercial shipping logs, which tracked almost every piece of space junk bigger than a car, had no mention of this fortress. That word came to him suddenly. Fortress. That was what it looked like. The dark walls were covered in angles and geometric patterns that seemed designed for defense. Strange towers jutted out at odd intervals, and what looked like weapons ports dotted the surface. But all of it was silent and dark. He brought the Wanderer alongside one of the docking ports. The port was large enough to fit 5 ships his size. Ryan suited up in his pressure gear, checked his air supply, and grabbed his toolkit. He had done this hundreds of times before, boarding dead ships and empty stations. But something about this place made him nervous. The airlock connected with a metallic clang. Ryan cycled it open and stepped into the fortress. His boot lights clicked on, cutting through the darkness. The corridor ahead was massive, with walls that stretched up at least 20 meters. Strange symbols covered every surface, geometric shapes that seemed to twist and change when he looked at them from different angles. Ryan walked slowly through the corridors, his breathing loud in his helmet. Everything was perfectly preserved. No rust, no damage, no signs of battle or disaster. It was as if whoever built this place had simply walked away and never come back. He explored for hours, finding chamber after chamber of technology he could not identify. Some rooms held machines the size of buildings, their purpose unknown. Other rooms were empty except for those strange symbols on the walls. Ryan recorded everything with his suit camera, knowing that even if he could not claim the whole fortress, the data alone would be valuable. Finally, he found what looked like a control room. It was at the center of the fortress, a circular chamber with a high ceiling. In the middle of the room, a crystal sphere floated in the air, held in place by nothing Ryan could see. Smaller crystals orbited around it, like planets around a sun, moving in perfect patterns. Ryan stepped onto the platform that surrounded the floating sphere. The moment his boot touched the surface, everything changed. The sphere began to glow with a soft blue light. The smaller crystals spun faster, and then a voice filled his head. It was not a sound. Ryan heard it directly in his mind, bypassing his ears completely. The voice spoke in concepts rather than words, meaning that appeared fully formed in his thoughts. Life form detected. Scanning biological signature. Species unknown. Genetic structure compatible. Authorization level, none. Standby for evaluation. Ryan froze, his hand moving instinctively to the plasma cutter on his belt. This unit is the central intelligence of fortress designation Bastion, built by the architects. Age: 4.7 million standard cycles. Primary function: defense and protection. Current status: dormant. Awaiting steward assignment. Ryan's mind raced. 4 million years old. That was older than human civilization. Older than any known galactic power. The voice, or intelligence, or whatever it was, continued speaking in his mind. No registered steward detected. Fortress, unclaimed. Do you wish to initiate claim protocol? Ryan thought about it. Under Earth salvage law, he had every right to claim abandoned property in unclaimed space. But something this big, this old, this advanced, it could cause problems. The major galactic powers would not be happy about a human controlling something like this. Then again, he had spent his whole life scraping by. Ryan spent the next 3 days learning about the Bastion. The Central Intelligence, which asked him to call it Aegis, showed him how to access the basic systems. Everything was designed to work through thought commands. Ryan just had to think about what he wanted, and the fortress responded. The Bastion was not just a station. It was a weapon, a shield, and a guardian all in one. The architects, whoever they were, had built it millions of years ago to protect entire star systems from threats. Aegis showed him records of ancient battles, civilizations that no longer existed, and dangers that had been destroyed before they could spread across the galaxy. The fortress had weapons that could unmake matter at the atomic level. It had shields that could withstand the explosion of a star. It had engines that could move it across the galaxy in days. And now all of that power belonged to Ryan, a simple salvage operator who had just been looking for scrap metal to sell. On the 4th day, his long-range sensors picked up a ship approaching. Ryan had expected this. When the Bastion activated, it sent out a signal across known space. Every government and corporation with advanced sensors would have detected it. Now someone had come to investigate. Ryan watched the approaching vessel on his screens. It was sleek and elegant, built by the Telmar Collective, one of the major powers in the galaxy. The Telmar were an old species, much older than humans. They controlled hundreds of star systems and had technology far beyond what Earth possessed. A communication request came through. Ryan accepted it, and a holographic image appeared in front of him. The figure was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered with rainbow colors. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, studied Ryan carefully. This was Ambassador Valen, according to the identification that came with the transmission. "Greetings," Valen said, speaking in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Valen of the Telmar Collective. We detected a massive energy surge from this location. I must say, we were not expecting to find a human here." Ryan crossed his arms. "I'm Ryan Cole. I claimed this station under salvage law. It was abandoned and unclaimed." Valen's eyes blinked in sequence, which Ryan had learned was a sign of surprise in Telmar body language. "You claimed the Bastion? Do you have any idea what you have done?" "I'm starting to figure it out," Ryan admitted. "The Bastion is not just some abandoned station," Valen said, his voice growing more serious. "It is one of the architect's ultimate weapons. My people have legends about these fortresses. We believed they were all destroyed or lost. The fact that one still exists, and that it is now active, changes everything." Ryan felt a knot form in his stomach. "What do you mean? Changes everything?" Valen moved closer to the camera, his image growing larger. "The Bastion has enough power to threaten entire civilizations. In the wrong hands, it could be used to conquer half the galaxy. The Galactic Council will demand that you surrender control immediately. They will say it is too dangerous for any one person, especially a human, to control." "And what do you think?" Ryan asked. Valen was quiet for a moment. "I think you seem like an honest man who made a lucky find. But honesty and luck are not enough. The Council will not care about your intentions. They will only see a threat to the balance of power." "Claude," but of one. Clued. Ryan looked around the control room, at all the systems he was just beginning to understand. If I give this up, what happens to it? The Council will take control. They will study it, probably try to replicate the technology. Or they might destroy it, to prevent anyone from using it. And if I keep it, then you make an enemy of every major power in the galaxy, Valen said bluntly. They will demand you surrender. If you refuse, they may try to take it by force. Ryan thought about his options. He could walk away, go back to his simple life as a salvage operator. But something about that felt wrong. The Bastion had chosen him for a reason. Maybe it was random chance, but Aegis had accepted his claim. The fortress was his responsibility now. I'm keeping it, Ryan said firmly. But I'm not going to use it to threaten anyone. The Bastion was built to protect, not conquer. That's what I'll use it for. Valen studied him for a long moment. You realize the Council will not accept that? They will summon you to Nexus Prime to answer for this. Then I'll go, Ryan said. I'll explain my position. If they want to take the Bastion, they'll have to convince me first. When they won, after the transmission ended, Ryan sat down in the command chair. His hands were shaking slightly. He had just told a representative of one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy that he was keeping a weapon that scared them. That was either very brave or very stupid. Aegis, he said aloud. Was I right to do that? The intelligence responded in his mind. The architects designed the Bastion to serve a worthy steward. You passed the initial genetic and psychological screening. Whether you are truly worthy will be determined by your actions. That's not very reassuring, Ryan muttered. Over the next few days, more ships arrived. Some were military vessels, keeping their distance but clearly monitoring the Bastion. Others were scientific ships, scanning the fortress from every angle. Ryan received dozens of communication requests, from journalists wanting interviews to corporate representatives, offering to buy his claim for enormous sums of money. Ryan ignored most of them. He spent his time learning everything he could about the Bastion. Aegis taught him how to navigate the fortress, how to access different systems, and how the weapons and defenses worked. The more he learned, the more he realized how much he did not know. He also learned about the architects. They had been an ancient race, one of the first to achieve advanced technology in the galaxy. They built the Bastion and others like it as guardians, placing them in strategic locations to protect developing civilizations from existential threats. Then, they vanished, leaving their creations behind. No one knew what happened to them. Some species believed they ascended to a higher plane of existence. Others thought they destroyed themselves in some ancient war. Aegis had no memory of their fate. The fortress had been put into sleep mode millions of years ago, waiting for someone to claim it. On the 7th day after activation, Ryan received an official summons. The Galactic Council demanded his presence at Nexus Prime, the neutral station where all major species gathered to discuss policy and settle disputes. He was ordered to appear within 10 days to answer questions about the Bastion. Ryan knew this was coming. He also knew he needed help. He sent a message to an old friend, Kate Morris. Kate was an engineer who had worked with Ryan on several salvage jobs. She was smart, practical, and one of the few people he trusted completely. Kate arrived 2 days later in her own small ship. She docked with the Wanderer and made her way to the Bastion's control room, where Ryan was waiting. So, she said, looking around at the massive chamber. You really did it this time. You found an ancient superweapon and poked it with a stick. Ryan laughed despite his nervousness. Pretty much, yeah. Kate walked around the room, examining the floating crystals and holographic displays. This is incredible. I've never seen technology like this. And you have no idea how it works? Aegis has been teaching me, but it's like trying to learn physics from scratch. This stuff is millions of years beyond our current understanding. Kate nodded. So, what's your plan? The Council is going to try to take this away from you. I know, Ryan said. That's why I need you. I need someone who can understand this technology well enough to explain it to others. I need proof that the Bastion is not a threat. And is it? Kate asked. Not a threat? Nexus Prime was the largest artificial structure Ryan had ever seen, not counting the Bastion itself. The massive station floated in neutral space, equally distant from all the major galactic powers. It was built centuries ago, as a place where different species could meet and discuss problems without the threat of war. Ryan arrived in a small shuttle with Kate and Ben Harper. Ben was a lawyer who specialized in salvage law and interspecies treaties. He was a short man, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Ryan had hired him because if anyone could argue his case before the council, it was Ben. The shuttle docked at one of the hundreds of ports on Nexus Prime. Guards from a dozen different species watched as Ryan and his companions walked through the security checkpoints. Everyone knew why he was here. Reason Dad. Ended 85Y. The news had spread across the galaxy. A human had claimed the legendary Bastion, and now the council would decide his fate. The council chamber was enormous. Tiered seats rose up toward a domed ceiling that showed a holographic display of stars. Representatives from hundreds of species filled those seats. Ryan recognized some of them from the news broadcasts. The Telmar, the Kryn, the Vortian, and many others. All of them were watching him as he walked to the central platform. At the highest point of the chamber sat the High Arbiter. Sesix was not like any life form Ryan had seen before. It looked like a cluster of floating crystals, each one glowing with inner light. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, echoing through the chamber. Ryan Cole of Earth, Sesix said. You have been summoned before this council to answer for your activation of the Bastion, an ancient weapon of immeasurable power. The council has reviewed your claim and finds it problematic. We demand that you relinquish control of this fortress immediately. Ben Harper stepped forward before Ryan could respond. With respect, High Arbiter, my client has done nothing wrong. He found an abandoned structure in unclaimed space and filed a proper salvage claim according to established law. His claim is completely legal. A representative from the Kryn Empire stood up. The Kryn were tall reptilian beings with scales like armor and eyes that glowed red. Legal technicalities mean nothing when galactic security is at risk. The Bastion is too dangerous to be controlled by one individual, especially from a species as young as humanity. Ryan felt anger rising in his chest. But Ben placed a hand on his arm, warning him to stay calm. Ben spoke again. My client's species is irrelevant. What matters is that he followed the law. If the council wants to change salvage law, they can do so. Another representative spoke up, this one, from the Vortian Confederacy. The Vortian looked like giant insects, with multiple arms and compound eyes. The law was not written with weapons like the Bastion in mind. Common sense dictates that such power must be controlled by the council, not one man. Sessix's crystals spun faster. The council has voted. The decision is final. Ryan Cole must surrender the Bastion or face sanctions from every member state. Ryan had been silent up to this point, letting Ben handle the legal arguments. But now he stepped forward. What kind of sanctions? Economic isolation, Sesix said. No trade with Earth, no travel through council-controlled space. Humanity would be cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Ryan felt the weight of that threat. Earth was still a relatively new member of the galactic community. Humanity depended on trade and technology exchange with alien species. Being cut off would set Earth back decades. But he also knew that giving up the Bastion would be worse. Once the Council had control, they would use it for their own purposes. Or they would lock it away, wasting its potential to actually help people. I have a counterproposal, Ryan said clearly. I will allow inspectors from the Council to examine the Bastion. Let your scientists and military experts come aboard. Let them verify what I'm telling you. The Bastion has built-in safeguards that prevent it from being used for aggression. It cannot fire on civilian targets. It cannot be used to conquer territory. It is purely a defensive system. The chamber erupted in heated discussion. Representatives argued with each other in dozens of different languages. Sessex's voice cut through the noise. Silence. Let the human finish, Ryan continued. If your inspectors find that I'm lying, if they discover that the bastion can be used as a weapon of conquest, then I'll surrender it voluntarily. But if they confirm what I'm saying, then the council must acknowledge my legal claim and stop trying to take it from me. Ambassador Valen, who had been sitting quietly, stood up. The human makes a reasonable offer. We have nothing to lose by investigating his claims. If he is telling the truth, then the bastion may not be the threat we fear. A representative from the Drayan Commonwealth spoke. The Drayan were beings made of living metal, their bodies constantly shifting and reforming. And if he is lying? What if this is simply a trick to buy time? Then we will know, Valen said. And we can act accordingly. But refusing to investigate makes us look fearful and unreasonable. The council debated for hours. Ryan, Kate, and Ben sat on the platform, waiting while hundreds of representatives argued about their fate. Some species demanded that Ryan surrender immediately. Others agreed with Valen that investigation was reasonable. The votes went back and forth. Finally, Sessex called for order. The council has reached a decision. We will accept Ryan Cole's proposal. A joint inspection team will be assembled from multiple member states. They will examine the bastion thoroughly. If their findings support Cole's claims, his ownership will be recognized. However, there will be conditions. What conditions? Ryan asked. The bastion must remain under constant monitoring. A permanent observation team will be stationed aboard, representing council interests. You will submit regular reports on the fortress's activities, and if you violate any interstellar laws or use the bastion inappropriately, your claim will be immediately revoked. Ryan looked at Kate and Ben. Kate nodded slightly. Ben whispered, "It's the best deal we're going to get." "I accept," Ryan said. Sessex's crystals glowed brighter. "Then it is settled. The inspection will begin within the week. This council is adjourned." As they left the chamber, Kate walked beside Ryan. "You realize what you just agreed to? You're going to have spies and observers living on your station, watching everything you do." "I know," Ryan said. "But it's better than the alternative. At least this way, I keep control." Ben adjusted his briefcase. "Just remember, they're looking for any excuse to take it away from you. One mistake, and this whole deal falls apart." They returned to their shuttle and flew back toward the bastion. Ryan looked out at the stars, thinking about what came next. He had won this round, but the real test was just beginning. The council would send their best scientists and military minds to examine every aspect of the fortress. If they found anything, any weakness or loophole, they would use it against him. But Ryan had faith in the bastion. Aegis had told him the truth about the safeguards. The architects had built this fortress to protect, not destroy. Now Ryan just had to prove it. When they arrived back at the bastion, Aegis greeted him through the mental link. "The inspection team has been selected. They will arrive in 4 days. There are representatives from 17 different species, including military strategists, weapons specialists, and artificial intelligence experts. Are we ready for this?" Ryan asked. "The bastion has nothing to hide," Aegis replied. "The question is whether the inspectors will believe what they see." Ryan sat in the command chair and looked around the control room. The floating crystals orbited peacefully. The holographic displays showed calm readings, and everything seemed orderly. But he knew that beneath the surface, this fortress held power that could reshape the galaxy. He just hoped that power would never have to be used. Kate appeared at the doorway. "I've been going through the technical specifications Aegis provided. This place is even more advanced than I thought. The energy systems alone are centuries beyond anything we have, maybe millennia. Will the inspectors understand it?" Ryan asked. The inspection team arrived exactly on schedule. 17 specialists from different species, each one an expert in their field. They came with scanning equipment, testing devices, and a mandate to examine every aspect of the bastion. Ryan greeted them at the main docking port, determined to be as cooperative as possible. The team leader was Dr. Mara Stone, a human scientist from the Mars Research Institute. She was a tall woman in her 50s, with gray-streaked hair and eyes that seemed to analyze everything they saw. Ryan was relieved that at least one human was on the team, someone who might understand his position. "Mr. Cole," Dr. Stone said as she shook his hand. "I want to be clear about something from the start. I'm here as a scientist, not as a representative of Earth. My job is to determine the truth about this fortress, regardless of politics or national pride." "I understand," Ryan said. "I want the truth to come out too." The other team members included a Telmar engineer named Selvik, a Kryn military strategist called Commander Grath, and a Vortian artificial intelligence expert named Click Pattern 7. There were also representatives from a dozen other species, each bringing their unique perspective and expertise. Ryan gave them complete access to the bastion. Kate led the technical teams through the power systems and engines. Ben made sure that all the legal documentation was available for review, and Ryan personally guided the military specialists through the weapons and defense systems, with Aegis providing detailed explanations of how everything worked. The first week was exhausting. The inspectors worked around the clock, scanning every system and testing every function. They interviewed Ryan repeatedly, asking the same questions in different ways, looking for inconsistencies in his story. They examined the records Aegis provided, searching for any sign of deception or hidden capabilities. Dr. Stone spent most of her time in the central control room, studying the crystal sphere that housed Aegis. "This is remarkable," she said to Ryan one evening. "The intelligence is not artificial in any conventional sense. It's more like a stored consciousness. Possibly the combined knowledge of multiple architects. Can you tell if it's telling the truth about the safeguards?" Ryan asked. "That's what we're working on," Dr. Stone said. "The system is incredibly complex. It would take years to fully understand it. But from what we've seen so far, your claims appear accurate. The weapons systems have built-in limiters that prevent them from targeting civilian populations or being used in offensive operations." Commander Grath was less convinced. The Kryn warrior had spent days analyzing the Bastion's combat capabilities. He approached Ryan in the observation deck, his red eyes glowing with suspicion. "These limiters you speak of," Grath said in his gravelly voice. "How do we know they cannot be overridden? What prevents you from finding a way around them?" Ryan met the commander's gaze. "Aegis says the safeguards are built into the fundamental architecture of the system. They're not software that can be reprogrammed. They're hardwired into the physical structure of the fortress itself." "And you trust this intelligence absolutely?" Grath asked. "I have no reason not to," Ryan said. "Aegis has been completely honest with me from the beginning. It could have lied, could have told me whatever I wanted to hear. Instead, it's been straightforward about both the capabilities and the limitations." Grath studied him for a long moment. "You, humans, are either very brave or very foolish. I have not yet decided which." Click Pattern 7, the Vortian expert, spent most of the time examining Aegis directly. The Vortian could interface with computer systems in ways other species could not, using their complex neural structures to directly communicate with artificial intelligences. After a week of constant interaction with Aegis, Click Pattern 7 called a meeting of the entire inspection team. "I have completed my analysis," the Vortian announced, their translator converting their clicks and patterns into understandable speech. "The intelligence known as Aegis is not hostile. It is not deceptive. It is exactly what it claims to be, a guardian intelligence designed to protect and defend." Dr. Stone nodded. "My findings support that conclusion. The Bastion systems are designed with protection as the primary function. Offensive capabilities exist only to neutralize threats, not to initiate aggression. But not everyone was convinced. A representative from the Drayan Commonwealth, a being named Flux, argued that even defensive weapons could be used offensively. The power of this fortress is too great, Flux said, their metallic body shifting nervously. Even with safeguards, it represents a destabilizing force in galactic politics. The debate continued for days. Some team members believed Ryan's claims were verified. The final report would be decided by consensus, and achieving that consensus seemed impossible. Then, everything changed. On the 15th day of the inspection, alarms suddenly sounded throughout the bastion. Aegis's voice filled Ryan's mind with urgency. Distress signal detected. Telmar colony world under attack. Multiple hostile vessels. Civilian casualties mounting. Ryan rushed to the control room, where holographic displays showed the situation. A Telmar colony, called Haven's Rest, was being attacked by a force of unknown ships. The colony had minimal defenses, and the attackers were overwhelming them. Ambassador Valen appeared on the communication screen, his face showing fear for the first time since Ryan had met him. Ryan Cole. This is an official request for assistance. Haven's Rest is my home world. My family is down there. The attackers are moving toward the civilian centers. We need help. Immediately. The inspection team gathered in the control room, watching the displays. Dr. Stone looked at Ryan. This is it. This is the moment that will define everything. What are you going to do? 1. Ryan looked at the screens showing the colony under attack. Ships burning in orbit. Cities being bombarded from space. Millions of lives in danger. Then he looked at Commander Grath. Will the Council see this as legitimate defense, or as me interfering in a military conflict? 2. Grath. 2. Grath's expression was unreadable. That depends on how you act. If you destroy the attackers completely, it will look like aggression. If you defend the colony and drive them away, it may be seen as justified protection. Kate appeared at Ryan's side. The Bastion can reach that system in less than an hour. But once you activate the combat systems, there's no taking it back. Everyone will see what this fortress can really do. Ryan made his decision. Aegis, set course for Haven's Rest. Maximum speed. Prepare defensive systems but keep weapons on standby. We're going to protect that colony. The Bastion moved faster than any conventional ship. Space bent around it, as it activated the Architect's faster-than-light drives. The inspection team held on as the fortress accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. They emerged from faster-than-light travel directly above Haven's Rest. The attacking ships were everywhere. Dozens of them, all bearing no identification marks. Pirates, maybe. Or mercenaries. It did not matter. They were killing civilians. Ryan opened a communication channel on all frequencies. This is Ryan Cole, Warden of the Bastion. All attacking vessels, cease fire immediately and withdraw. This is your only warning. The attackers responded by firing on the Bastion. Their weapons were powerful. Enough to destroy normal warships. They splashed harmlessly against the fortress's shields, not even causing a flicker in the power systems. So much for warnings, Kate muttered. Ryan thought the commands, and the Bastion responded. Defensive systems activated. Not the reality-manipulating weapons that could unmake matter, but precision beam weapons, designed to disable rather than destroy. The Bastion fired, and attacking ships lost their weapons and engines in perfectly targeted strikes. Within minutes, the attacking force was crippled, drifting helplessly in space. The colony's defenses rallied, capturing the disabled pirate vessels. In the control room, the inspection team watched in stunned silence. Finally, Dr. Stone spoke. You could have destroyed them all. The Bastion has that power. But you chose to disable them instead. Destroying them wasn't necessary, Ryan said simply. The goal was to stop the attack and protect the colony. That's what I did. Commander Grath stepped forward. His expression had changed. There was respect in his eyes. 6 months passed after the incident at Haven's Rest. The Bastion became something unexpected in galactic politics. It was not a threat or a weapon of conquest. It was a guardian, and Ryan Cole was its keeper. Species that had initially feared the fortress now saw it as a symbol of protection. Ryan had changed too. He was no longer just a salvage operator. He was the warden, a title he still found strange but was learning to accept. Kate had become his chief engineer, leading a team of specialists from multiple species who were studying the Bastion's technology. A permanent crew of observers and support staff now called the fortress home, over 200 beings from dozens of different worlds. Life had found a rhythm. Ryan spent his days learning more about the Bastion's systems, mediating disputes between the different species on his crew, and occasionally responding to distress calls from nearby systems. Nothing major, mostly pirate attacks or natural disasters where the Bastion's advanced sensors and transport capabilities could help with rescue operations. Then the reports started coming in from the Galactic Rim. The first messages were confusing: colonies going silent, ships disappearing, long-range probes showing entire star systems stripped of all biological life. At first, the Council thought it was some new weapon or terrorist group. But as more data came in, the truth became clear. The Vracs had arrived. The Vracs were not a species in any conventional sense. They were a swarm, a hive mind that consumed everything in its path. Individual Vracs were small, insect-like creatures with limited intelligence. But together, numbering in the billions, they formed a collective consciousness that was frighteningly intelligent and completely ruthless. They traveled in living ships, massive bioconstructs that could cross interstellar space. When they found a world with resources, they descended on it like a plague. They consumed everything: plants, animals, even the minerals in the ground. Then, they moved on, leaving dead rocks behind. The Vracs had been known to exist for centuries, but they had always stayed beyond the Galactic Rim, in the dark spaces between galaxies. No one knew why they were suddenly moving into settled space. Maybe they had exhausted their previous feeding grounds. Maybe something had driven them toward the galaxy. The reason did not matter. They were here, and they were spreading. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Ryan attended via holographic link from the Bastion. The council chamber was filled with panicked representatives. Species that had been arguing about trade disputes and border disagreements just days ago were now facing an existential threat. High Arbiter Sessex addressed the council. The Vrac swarm has attacked 17 colony worlds in the past month. 14 of those worlds are now dead. The remaining 3 have been evacuated. Military forces from multiple species have engaged the swarm, with limited success. We are losing this war. A holographic display showed the spread of the swarm. It was moving like a wave through the outer territories, consuming world after world. Projections showed it would reach major population centers within 6 months. Commander Grath, who had become something of an ally to Ryan since the inspection, stood to speak. Our weapons are designed to fight ships and armies. The Vracs do not fight in organized ways. They overwhelm with numbers. For every bioship we destroy, 10 more take its place. We need a new strategy. Ambassador Valen looked directly at Ryan's hologram. The Bastion. Could it stop them? The entire council turned to look at Ryan. He felt the weight of their attention. The hope and fear mixed together. I don't know, he admitted honestly. The Bastion was designed to fight existential threats, but I've never faced anything like the Vracs. And Dr. Stone, who was still aboard the Bastion studying its systems, appeared in a smaller hologram beside Ryan. The architect's records mention threats similar to the Vracs, consuming swarms that spread across the galaxy. The Bastion's weapons are designed to counter such threats. But we're talking about potentially billions of individual targets. Sessex's crystals spun rapidly. Ryan Cole. The Council formally requests the Bastion's assistance in fighting the Vrax swarm. Will you help us? Ryan looked at Kate, who was standing beside him in the control room. She nodded. This was what the Bastion was built for. This was why the architects had created it. Yes, Ryan said. We'll help. But I need full tactical cooperation from all military forces. The Bastion is powerful, but we can't fight the entire swarm alone. We need to work together. Over the next weeks, Ryan worked with military commanders from across the galaxy to develop a strategy. The plan was to create a defensive line at the Telmar home system, one of the largest and most populous areas in the swarm's path. If they could stop the Vrax there, it would buy time to evacuate other worlds and prepare better defenses. Hundreds of warships gathered at the Telmar system. The combined fleet represented the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Species that had been enemies for centuries now fought side by side against a common threat. The Bastion took position at the center of the defensive line. Ryan stood in the control room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching swarm. Kate was at the engineering station, monitoring power levels. Aegis was fully active, ready to coordinate the fortress's systems. They're entering the system, a Telmar officer reported. Estimated numbers. Over 40,000 bioships. Smaller attack forms number in the hundreds of millions. Ryan felt his stomach tighten. He had known the swarm was massive, but seeing it on the displays was different. It looked like a living darkness, spreading across space and consuming the light of stars. The bioships moved forward, ignoring all attempts at communication. The Vrax did not negotiate, did not retreat, did not show fear. They simply consumed. The Allied fleet opened fire. Missiles and energy weapons filled space with destruction. Thousands of Vrax creatures died in the first minutes of battle. But more kept coming, replacing their losses instantly. The fleet was fighting well, but they were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Ryan, Kate called out. We need to use the main weapons. The fleet can't hold them. Ryan had been hoping to avoid this. The Bastion's reality-manipulating weapons were devastating, but using them would show the entire galaxy just how powerful the fortress truly was. There would be no taking that back. But he looked at the displays, showing Vrax creatures breaking through the defensive line, heading toward the planet below, where billions of Telmar civilians were sheltering. He thought about Ambassador Valen's family down there, waiting to see if they would live or die. Aegis, Ryan said. Activate the erasure protocol. Target only the Vrax bioships and attack forms. Avoid all Allied vessels and civilian areas. Confirmed, Aegis responded. Erasure protocol active. The Bastion changed. The entire fortress began to glow with a light that seemed to exist outside normal space. Energy readings spiked to levels that made the Allied ship's sensors scream warnings. Then the weapons fired. They were not beams or missiles. The weapons did not travel through space in any conventional sense. They simply targeted matter and unmade it, breaking the fundamental bonds that held atoms together. Vrax bioships ceased to exist. Not destroyed, but erased, as if they had never been there at all. The effect spread through the swarm like a wave. Thousands of bioships vanished in seconds. Millions of smaller attack forms simply stopped existing. The Vrax, for the first time in recorded history, showed something that might have been fear. The swarm faltered, its advance stopping as the collective intelligence processed what was happening. Ryan targeted the largest concentrations of Vrax forces, working with Aegis to ensure no Allied ships were caught in the effect. The Bastion's weapons were precise, impossibly precise, erasing only what needed to be removed. In less than an hour, the battle was over. The Vrax swarm, which had destroyed 14 worlds and killed billions, was broken. The survivors retreated beyond the galactic rim, moving faster than they had arrived. They would not return to this sector, not while the Bastion stood guard. The weeks following the battle against the Vraks were the most difficult of Ryan's life. He had become the most famous person in the galaxy overnight, and not everyone saw him as a hero. Some species viewed him with gratitude, calling him the guardian of the galaxy. Others saw him as a threat, a human with enough power to dictate terms to entire civilizations. The Bastion received thousands of messages every day. Some were thank you letters from people whose lives had been saved. Others were threats and demands. Several minor powers tried to form alliances with Ryan, offering him wealth and territory in exchange for protection. A few extremist groups even declared him a god, which made Ryan deeply uncomfortable. The Galactic Council called another emergency session, this time to discuss what would happen next. Ryan knew this meeting would determine the future of the Bastion and possibly the entire galaxy. He prepared carefully, working with Kate and Ben to develop a proposal that might satisfy everyone. The council chamber was packed when Ryan arrived in person this time. He walked to the central platform, with Kate and Ben at his sides. High Arbiter Sesix looked down at him, the crystals that made up its body spinning slowly. "Ryan Cole," Sesix began. "You have demonstrated the power of the Bastion beyond any doubt. You have also shown restraint and wisdom in how you use that power. But the Council must address the fundamental question. What prevents you from using the Bastion to conquer rather than protect?" Ryan had expected this question. He had spent days thinking about his answer. "Nothing prevents me except my own choices," he said honestly. "The Bastion gives me power, but power alone doesn't make someone a tyrant. What matters is how that power is used." Commander Grath stood. The Kryn warrior had become one of Ryan's strongest supporters after the Vraks battle. "The human speaks truth. I have fought beside him. I have seen him choose mercy when destruction would have been easier. He has proven his character, but not everyone agreed." A representative from the Harkin Alliance, a coalition of merchant species, spoke up. "Character can change. Today, he is a guardian. Tomorrow, he might decide he knows better than the rest of us how the galaxy should be run. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, as humans themselves once said." Ryan nodded. "You're right to be concerned. That's why I'm proposing the Bastion Accord." Oh. He activated a holographic display that showed the document he and his advisors had prepared. The Accord establishes clear rules for how the Bastion operates. First, the fortress will only respond to existential threats. Invasions by hostile powers, natural disasters, or dangers like the Vraks that threaten multiple worlds. Second, the Bastion will not take sides in political disputes, territorial conflicts, or economic disagreements. Third, any use of the Bastion's weapons must be reviewed by an independent oversight committee made up of representatives from multiple species. Dr. Stone stepped forward. She was now the official liaison between the scientific community and the Bastion. "I've reviewed the Accord carefully. It includes genuine limitations on the Warden's authority. Mr. Cole is essentially volunteering to restrict his own power." Ambassador Valen stood. "The Telmar Collective supports this accord. Ryan Cole has saved our people twice now. He has earned our trust. But more importantly, he has shown us that humanity can be wise guardians of great power." The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted stricter controls. Others argued the restrictions were already too limiting. Ben Harper negotiated compromises, adjusting the language of the Accord to address concerns while maintaining its core principles. Finally, Sesix called for a vote. One by one, the representatives cast their decisions. The Accord passed with strong support, though not unanimously. Some species abstained, unwilling to fully trust Ryan, but not opposed enough to vote against him. "The Bastion Accord is now official galactic policy," Sesix announced. "Ryan Cole, you will remain as Warden of the Bastion, subject to the terms outlined in the Accord. May you prove worthy of the trust being placed in you." Ryan. Ryan felt relief wash over him. It was not a perfect solution, but it was workable. He had gained official recognition while accepting reasonable limits on his authority. But there was one more thing he needed to do. Ryan stepped to the edge of the platform and addressed the entire council. I want to make something clear. I didn't ask for this responsibility. I was just a salvage operator, looking for scrap metal. But the Bastion chose me. And I chose to accept that burden. I'm not doing this for power or glory. I'm doing it because someone has to. And that someone happened to be me. He paused, looking around at the hundreds of representatives from dozens of species. The galaxy is full of dangers. The Vrax proved that. There will be other threats. Other challenges. The Bastion alone can't solve every problem. But it can stand as a shield for those who can't protect themselves. That's what I'm offering. Not domination. Not control. Kate smiled at him from where she stood. Ben nodded approvingly. In the galleries above, civilians from multiple species who had come to watch the proceedings began to applaud. The sound spread through the chamber. Species that had never agreed on anything now united in one simple gesture of approval. Over the following months, the Bastion Accord changed how the fortress operated. Ryan established the Oversight Committee as promised, including members from the Telmar, Kryn, Vorshen, and a dozen other species. Dr. Stone became the head of a scientific division dedicated to studying the Bastion's technology and finding peaceful applications. Kate led the engineering teams in remarkable discoveries. They learned how to adapt the Bastion's power systems to help dying stars, extending their life by millions of years. They developed medical applications of the architect's technology, creating healing devices that could cure diseases thought incurable. The fortress became not just a weapon but a tool for making the galaxy better. Ryan trained others to help manage the Bastion's systems. He could not do everything alone. And he did not want to. A new generation of guardians emerged, humans and aliens working together to protect civilization. The Bastion visited worlds in need, not to conquer, but to help. When a plague threatened the Darwin colonies, the fortress's medical teams found a cure. When a rogue asteroid threatened to destroy a populated world, the Bastion moved it to a safe orbit. When pirates attacked trade routes, the fortress disabled their ships and turned them over to proper authorities. Slowly, the galaxy's fear of the Bastion transformed into something else. It became a symbol. A reminder that power did not have to corrupt, that strength could be used to protect rather than dominate. 2 years after claiming the fortress, Ryan stood in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. He was 38 years old now, though he felt decades older. The responsibility of being warden had aged him in ways that time alone could not. Kate found him there, as she often did when he needed to think. "Remembering when things were simpler?" she asked. Ryan smiled. "Sometimes. I miss the days when my biggest worry was finding enough salvage to pay for fuel. But I wouldn't go back." Noted. Thanks for watching. Today about at 2 p.m. And all now. Today about at 2 p.m. Today about at 2 p.m. No regrets? Plenty of regrets, Ryan admitted. I've made mistakes. People have died because I wasn't fast enough or smart enough. But overall, I think we're doing good work. Kate looked out at the stars with him. The galaxy is safer because of you. Because of the Bastion. That has to count for something. It does. Ryan agreed. But it's not just me. It's all of us. You, Ben, Dr. Stone, Commander Grath, all the crew members from dozens of species. We're proving that different civilizations can work together for a common good. A communication alert sounded. Aegis's voice filled Ryan's mind. Distress signal detected. Colony World reports incoming meteor storm, requesting assistance. Ryan straightened up, the moment of reflection over. Alert the crew. Set course for the colony. Full speed. As the Bastion turned toward the distressed world, Ryan felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This was his life now. Not the simple existence of a salvage operator, but something more important. He was the warden of the Bastion, guardian of those who needed protection, keeper of an ancient power that he had learned to use wisely. He had claimed an abandoned fortress and awakened a force that bent the galaxy to its knees, not through conquest but through the simple promise of protection. The galaxy had changed because one man had made the right choices when given impossible power. And as the Bastion raced toward another world in need, Ryan knew that as long as he lived, he would continue making those choices. He had been chosen by chance, but he would prove worthy by choice. That was all anyone could do. And somehow, it was enough. The fortress moved through space, a dark guardian watching over the light, and the galaxy slept a little more peacefully knowing it was there. The Allied fleet hung in space, stunned by what they had witnessed. Ships from dozens of species had seen the Bastion unleash its full power, and now they understood why the Council had been so afraid. In the control room, Ryan sat down heavily in the command chair. His hands were shaking. He had just killed billions of living creatures, even if those creatures were trying to exterminate entire civilizations. The weight of that decision pressed down on him. Kate placed a hand on his shoulder. You saved the Telmar homeworld. You saved billions of innocent lives. Don't forget that. Ambassador Valen's face appeared on the communication screen. He was openly crying. Ryan Cole, you have saved my people for the second time. We are forever in your debt. But Ryan was looking at the other displays, the ones showing reactions from across the galaxy. News organizations were already broadcasting what happened. Everyone had seen the Bastion's power demonstrated on a scale that changed everything. The galaxy would never see humanity, or Ryan Cole, the same way again. Ow. You passed the test, human. When given the chance to use overwhelming force, you showed restraint. That is the mark of a true warrior, not a conqueror. Valen's image appeared on the screen again. This time there were tears in his eyes. Ryan Cole, you saved my world. My family. Thank you. The inspection team prepared their final report over the next 2 days. When they presented it to the Council, the verdict was unanimous. The Bastion was verified as a defensive system with proper safeguards. Ryan Cole's claim was legitimate. And his actions at Haven's Rest proved that he was a responsible steward of that power. But Ryan knew this was only the beginning. He had proven himself once, but the galaxy was a dangerous place. There would be other threats, other challenges. The Bastion was his responsibility now, and he would have to be ready for whatever came next. Kate shrugged. Some of the older species might recognize the principles. The Telmar and Vorshan have been spacefaring for thousands of years. They've probably encountered architect technology before. Then we show them everything, Ryan decided. Complete transparency. No secrets. No hidden areas. Let them see exactly what the Bastion is and what it can do. And if they decide it's too dangerous anyway? Kate asked. Ryan smiled grimly. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. One crisis at a time. 10-4. One in my. Ryan thought about that. It's a weapon, so of course it's dangerous. But Aegis says it has safeguards built in. It can't be used for conquest or aggression. It's designed purely for defense. Then we need to prove that, Kate said. We need to show the Council that this thing is not what they fear. Ryan smiled. Does that mean you'll help me? Kate grinned back. Someone has to keep you from getting killed. Might as well be me. Oh, honest salvage work, while the big corporations and alien governments controlled everything else. If he walked away now, someone else would find this place eventually. At least he knew his own intentions were clean. Yes, Ryan said firmly. I claim this station under Earth Salvage Law, Article 7. My name is Ryan Cole, and this is my legal claim. The sphere exploded with light, so bright that Ryan had to close his eyes. He felt something shift, not in the room but in reality itself, as if the universe had been rearranged in some small but fundamental way. The voice spoke again, but this time it sounded different. Less mechanical. More alive. Claim registered and accepted. Genetic pattern locked. Welcome, Steward Ryan Cole. You are now Warden of the Bastion. Initiating full system activation. All defensive protocols online. The Aegis protocol is now active. All around him, the fortress came to life. Lights flickered on in sequence, spreading from the control room outward through the corridors. Ryan felt a vibration through his boots as massive engines powered up somewhere deep in the structure. On the walls, holographic displays appeared, showing systems and data he could not begin to understand. Ryan stood in the center of the control room, watching the ancient fortress awaken around him. He had wanted to find something valuable. He had found something that would change everything.